we are not meant to do life alone. And I think I very much have this idea that, we grow up in a very individualistic society, right? That is,
Oh,
we
yeah.
glorify the more individual we can be and
Yeah.
independent. And of
Well,
course,
that's the
there's a
great
place.
American, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right?
Yes,
You're up.
yes. And of
Yeah.
course, there's a place for being able to do things ourselves and not being only dependent on others, but it's about the balance, right? And I think often we have moved out of balance. And there was something about just saying, hey, it's okay that I need other people. A lot of men give up most of their friendships and support network when they're married. And suddenly, when it doesn't work, they found themselves very isolated, or they have friends, but they can't talk to them about their emotional distress. So they try to numb it with alcohol or go watch a football game, right? And and therefore they tend to show up with more psychological distress, right, and mental health issues. And therefore, I think it's so important, this message, that actually we do need other people, right? And it's also okay for men, for all of us, by the way, not just men, but to have this, hey, we can rely on other people and I'm not meant to do all this on my own. And for me, that was so helpful also just personally, because I started allowing myself to reach out more, to other men for support, etc., and to my friends. And that changed my relationships, not just in partnership, but also all my relationships outside partnership too became much more warm, much more close as I started allowing myself to ask for other help, to say my friends, hey, actually, I'm struggling a bit today, right? And suddenly I started having a sense of support that really grown, right? And become very significant. So I think I also just want to highlight how these impacts can even go outside just the therapy room, right? And what we do with the partner, it really ripples into all the different relationships.
You're 100% correct. If I had read Sue's Hold Me Tight in grad school, that probably would have been better because it would have hit a good level. But that's not the one I read. Because that book, right, it's powerful because it does draw our attention to the way that we are showing up and asks of us to be compassionate to our own self,
Yes.
but also ask us to begin building compassion for our partner. And the way
Yes.
they're showing up.
Yes.
And that's such a key, right? Can I compassionately hold the way I'm showing up
Yeah.
while simultaneously, right? And this becomes the tricky part, simultaneously seeing the impact that move has on my partner,
Yes.
and then compassionately holding the response that they give me,
Yes.
while also being able to share the impact their move has on me. So there's
Yes.
a lot of movement in that.
And what you're saying is so important, because this is what I notice often in the couple room and also just on my own personal life, because it's all relatable, right? We have many of these things we see in the room. And, I notice that, it's very, very difficult for people to take responsibility for how they impact the other as long as they feel shame, right? Because if me as taking accountability means that I'm a bad person, then I will try to keep defending myself, right? But when I suddenly can realize, it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means I made a mistake. It becomes much easier to accept and acknowledge my partner, right? And say, this had this impact and I see how it hurt you. And I think it even, in many ways also made me a better parent with my children, because I know before I kind of understood and had integrated this, if I made a mistake with my kids, maybe I got angry or too loud or whatever, because, they wouldn't listen again and again. It happens to all of us. But I would then go into being really guilty. And that could then even make me more stressed, which would make me more likely to be triggered again, right? And get angry. So it would be like a negative spiral. But after understanding this, it was much easier for me to give you compassion and say, hey, I probably overreacted. It doesn't mean I'm a bad dad. It just means I messed up and now I need to go repair with my kids, right? And that now, of course, help them learn a good framework, right? For how it works when we have fracture, which we're always going to have, right? There will always be some fractures in life. So yeah, I just found that really fascinating that often we have to address this shame that there is, right? Before we can even acknowledge.
Yeah, that's huge, right? Because if you want to find something to hit the shame button, just go to parenting. It is so easy. If you want like, what does shame feel like? Become a parent, and then you'll just feel it all the time, right? I have 3 kids. Yeah, my kids are 11 and about to be 9 and 6. And there's not a day that goes by that shame isn't inviting me to come and camp.
Yes.
Right? And yet I know that if I go camp in shame and something starts to go off with my kids, like they don't listen for the 100th time that I've said it in a kind and gentle voice.
Yes.
If I go camp in shame, I am going to react quicker.
Yes.
I'm going to make more mistakes. And shame doesn't allow me to trust in good enough parenting.
Yeah.
It really doesn't allow that.
Yes.
And what shame can do is come in and grab all other feelings, whether they're frustration, whether it's sadness, even joy. It pushes every other emotion out of the room.
Yes.
And I no longer have access to it. All I have is shame and the strategies I have to make it stop.
Yes.
Which for many men become yelling, walking away, leaving, shutting down, like just shut it. Because, it's like it's like shame comes in and all the other emotional breakers flip. But the only way to turn off shame is to go turn off the whole house.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like pull the main breaker down and go, I can't feel anything because if I turn anything on, shame is there to meet it.
Yes. And
that's really, really hard on their partners and their kids. But this is all that we were given, right? We weren't given, as men, just to name a few things there, we weren't given a lot of tools, right? We were honestly, if you showed up emotionally, and maybe this is changing some today, but for gentlemen around our age, if you showed up emotionally in the locker room, that was an invitation to being like punished.
Yes.
It was ribbing and it was joking. And I love that culture of just joking with each other and being able to make fun. That's really, really fun. That's like, if you want to get to know me deeply, like you're going to have to laugh with me. Like that's my gateway. We spend our life doing like sad work. Like, if you're like my friend and you won't with me, I'm like, you're not going to be really deep friends. You want to know my heart. You gotta open the gate through laughter. Cause I got to know come up and spend some time with you in my heartedness.
Yeah.
Right? Well, as men, we weren't given the tools to even acknowledge emotions. Because to acknowledge them was then to say, oh, well, honestly, the first thing that you would say as a kid was, what are you, some girl, right? Because emotions were given to girls. That was it. That was the girls' world. But what we didn't know was, what we weren't taught, was that emotions are humanity.
Yes.
Like what makes us human.
Yes.
It doesn't make us male or female. It just makes us human. And so we end up cutting off, disowning the whole part of our own humanity. And what all that research has shown is for the avoidant, which is normally male, that's normally, obviously there's loads of withdrawals that are female, but the avoidant attachment style has a higher emotional distress than the anxious attachment style, who's the visibly distressed one. Right? Anxious attachment is spinning and you can see them spinning and they're yelling or they're getting upset or they're slamming something down or they're throwing something across the room. Like they're the ones, and everybody would look at that person like, oh, they are completely dysregulated. They're so upset. And their partner is just like, wow. Right. And everybody goes, he's so calm. No, internally, not calm, way actually more distressed than their partner. And then all that distress, there's nothing else to do but shut off. Right. It's like, boom, flips and the lights have to go on.
Yeah. You're so spot on. There's so many things I want to say to what you're saying here, because so many topics. You talk first about the parenting, right? Yeah. And how we need to allow ourselves to not be perfect parents. And I would even say perfect parenting is harmful because kids have to have some sense of resilience, meaning overcoming challenging is like overprotecting them. And kids have to experience fracture. What's important is that we learn how to repair, right? The issue happens when we can't repair with them, right? And it's just left. Then they don't learn that process. But actually, I would even argue that some rupture has to happen for them to grow up as functional, confident adults that know, hey, I don't have to be afraid if there is some conflict in my relationships, because I know conflict can happen, and it doesn't mean people disengage or disappear. We come back and we sort it out, right?